Vaisai, let's do it. We're doing tzitzis. What material should tzitzis be made out of? Should be made out of wool. Should be made out of linen. Is that mesh stuff cool? How's cotton? How's how's synthetic materials? What's the story? Also, we're going to discuss the ins and outs of tzitzis. Should you wear your tzitzis in? Should you wear your out? Is the yeshivish thing? Is it the proper thing? Does everybody agree? Are you Sephardi? Are you Ashkenazi? Let's get involved. What's going on? Okay, so everyone agrees that you take a wool four-cornered garment, and that is chayiv in tzitzis midaraisa. What about a garment which is not wool? So let's use the most common example, because that's going to be the most applicable, cotton. So you take a cotton beged, is it chayiv in tzitzis midaraisa? So, guess what? It's not just a machlokes between you and your roommate, it's a machlokes between Rava and Rav Nachman. Zakt Rava says it's chayiv midaraisa. Rav Nachman says, no, cotton is only chayiv midarabanan. Okay, but what do the Rishonim say? Zakt the Rambam, Zakt the Rif, they pass him like Rav Nachman that it's chayiv midarabanan. Cotton is only chayiv midarabanan. Zakt Rashi, Rabbeinu Tam, and Roiv Rishonim, and they go like Rava that it's cotton is chayiv in tzitzis midaraisa. How do we pass in Lamaisa? So as you might expect, the Mechaber goes like the Shita of the Rambam and the Rif, and says that cotton is only chayiv midarabanan. If you want to be yotz midaraisa, you need wool. The Ramah, he goes like as you'd expect, Rashi and Tosfos, Rashi Rabbeinu Tam, and he says that cotton is chayiv midaraisa v'hachi ilchasa, and that's the halacha. It's only you wear cotton, you're good. So seemingly we should be done here. Pretty easy. Svardim, enjoy your wool tzitzis. Ashkenazim, we could chill with our cotton. That's how I would seemingly end. But guess what, guys? The plot thickens. Zak the Mishnah Berurah says that a Yorei Shemayim is machmir and is choishish for the shitas of the mechaber, and a Yorei Shemayim is going to wear wool, both by his talis gadol and by his talis cotton, which is what we call, our regular tzitzis that we wear, most of us under our shirts. That needs to be that a baal, a Yer Shemayim should be machmir to have that all wool. Okay, fine. That sounds a little strange, by the way, because usually most of the time it's a machlokes between the mechaber and the Ramah. Usually. So we go like the Ramah, and we're not machmer for the mechaber. Why over here is the Mishnah Berurah say to be machmer? So, and you have Rav Rishonim on the side. The Ramah is very mistaber with his Rav Rishonim that you're chayiv midaraisa on the cotton. So let's think about something for a second. Now, it's interesting to know. Maybe I will say it the other way. Maybe if there's a suffix midaraisa, and there's Amoraim, and there's Rishonim, and there's Poskim that say that you're only yotz the deraisa with wool, one could argue that maybe the Pashtus says you should have to go for wool, because this is Maisa, there's a suffix deraisa, so to speak. Maybe we should be machmer. If you had a lulav, yeah, we're gonna see. I know there's terutzim to what I'm gonna say, but if you had a lulav, and this lulav yotz midaraisa, maybe. Suffix yotzim midaraisa. You want a lulav like that? Who wants to shake a lulav on the first day of Sukkot? That's suffix yotzim midaraisa. We don't want that. We want something that's vade deraisa. Why would we settle for something that's suffix? But there is a difference. The difference is, why is it not a suffix?
Because we go like Rav Rishonim. Rav Rishonim was saying is vade chayim minateira.
But when you have a Rambam and a Rif going against, we're not always so comfortable going against. I'm not saying there's an atzad like you. I'm not saying there's an atzad, but you hear the other side as well, I think. Okay.
Other mitzvah that the Rabbi Maviv say, the rice, like let's say Krishma nets, and we don't pass them down.
So we don't always. I agree, we're not machmir for every Rambam.
So hard to wake up. Or
yeah, that's difficult. Now, Lamaisa, let's just make a chiluk between the lulav, right? Lulav, if you don't take the lulav, right? Let's say this lulav wasn't chayiv midaraisa. That means you didn't have a lulav. You didn't shake a lulav that day. That's a bittul asay. That's a big problem. But when it comes to tzitzis, you're only chayiv in tzitzis if you're wearing a four-cornered beged. So on the tzad, the cotton isn't chayiv midaraisa. You still didn't do anything that wrong. You weren't mevatel asay because you just didn't You just didn't wear a four-corner beged. It's not like miman of shach. If cotton is chayiv midaraisa, you did it. And if cotton isn't chayiv midaraisa, there was no element even of bittul asay because there was no chayiv on the garment that you were wearing. So memela, there's less reason I'm less worried about my suffix deraisa on my cotton tzitzis than I am on a theoretical suffix deraisa lulav. If I had a suffix deraisa lulav, that would be a bigger issue.
What a good kasha from Kriyishma. Forget about dates. But the Magen of Ram, the Magen of Ram, you were never Yotzei Kriyishma in your life. Why don't we machmer this?
Never, not never.
No, if you daven always like the Ra, you didn't do Kriyishma, you weren't Yotzei Kriyishma.
Yeah. So
why don't we go crazy there? There's like you're saying, you have this.
So the answer is you got to get some sleep. Fine. Lemaisa. Fine. All right. So now let's take a step to think about that for a second. We just said that if you're not wearing a four-corner beged, you're not chayiv in tzitzis. So if you're not wearing a four-corner beged, you're not chayiv in tzitzis. So this whole thing is not such a big issue, right? You're not wearing tzitzis, so who cares? Why are we so pedantic to always wear tzitzis when l'chayra it's not particularly necessary? So there's a famous Gemara Menachos Mem Aleph Amud Aleph where a malach goes to Rav Katina and says, rebukes him, what's going on? Katina, where's your tzitzis? Where's your mitzvah, huh? Why aren't you wearing tzitzis, Rav Katina? He says, hey, Rav Katina says, get off my back. Get off my back. I'm not wearing a four-corner beged. See, this wasn't invented by some first-year guy, this taina. It was Rav Katina already said it. To the malach, I'm not wearing a four-corner beged. What do you want from me? The malach says, you know what? You know what happens to guys like you? When Hashem gets angry, he's going to punish and bring his wrath upon those that avoid mitzvahs. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm not looking to find out what Hashem's wrath has to offer. So therefore, I think we should all wear tzitzis. Because apparently it's called avoiding mitzvahs, which is probably a little bit of a chiddush. Because I would have argued that maybe if I have a pair of tzitzis in my hand and I throw it on the side, maybe that's avoiding tzitzis. If I happen to have a four-corner beged, why is that considered avoiding mitzvahs? But I guess the idea is it's not so difficult to get yourself a four-corner beged on. I mean, the fact that you didn't put in that little effort, and you get so many mitzvahs for such little effort, I guess that's what makes it considered avoiding mitzvahs. But in a Hanami, there is an element of chiddush there.
Taisa said that if Katina was only talking about in a place where the people wore four-corner garments.
Very interesting. I'll say that for the mic. Apparently, Taisa says that Rav Katina was the concept of Rav Katina was only said in a place where the derech ha'olam over there was to wear four-cornered garments. All right, that answers that shayla. Okay, very good. So the Maisa. How do we end up over here? So I would have thought that a guy who wears a Svardi who wears just cotton, we could have tainas on him, l'chayra. You know, this Rav Katina taina could apply to the Svardi, I would say, because you're supposed to be. Don't worry. We're going to attack the Ashkenazim too soon. Don't worry. We're getting the Ashkenazim too, but we're starting off. It's obvious that we get the Svardi. So if you're not wearing the cotton, the wool tzitzis. So we're going to go to the Sephardi. Listen, you're avoiding mitzvahs. You're avoiding a mitzvah deraisa. There's a mitzvah deraisa to wear the wool tzitzis. You're not wearing the wool tzitzis. You're avoiding a mitzvah deraisa. But the Ashkenazi, I would say, what avoiding mitzvahs? He's wearing the cotton tzitzis because they hate, right? What's the problem? He's wearing cotton tzitzis. L'fidar Ramah, you're yoitza midaraisa. The Indian of wearing tzitzis by wearing these cotton tzitzis. And yeah, you're right. There's an Indian, there's your Shemayim, maybe as Mr. Brewer says, to wear wool. But you might say you're good. You're good. Zakter Reb Moshe. There's multiple chuvas from Reb Moshe, and his lashonis aren't completely uniform. But the more or less what Reb Moshe says is, at some points he calls it a Baal Nefesh. He says a Baal Nefesh, which seems to be very in line with the Mishnah Berurah, that a Baal Nefesh should wear wool tzitzis. And that's what Reb Moshe says. A Baal Nefesh should wear wool tzitzis. But then he goes and takes it a step further. You want to hear what Reb Moshe says? Reb Moshe says that, and he's talking to Ashkenazim, somebody that doesn't wear wool tzitzis, somebody who's going around wearing cotton tzitzis, when Hashem is angry, he's going to let his wrath out and punish those that just wear cotton tzitzis. Which is quite a stretch. Rav Katina, the Gemara was talking about somebody who's completely mevatel the mitzvah altogether, and saying that Hashem's wrath is going to come out on that person. But Rav Moshe goes and extends that din to somebody that's fulfilling the mitzvah, maybe not the utmost fulfillment. But I guess the idea is, once again, even Rav Katina, he wasn't doing a bit aseh, because he wasn't wearing a four-corner beged. The Varden, how did Rav Moshe learn the Gemara? The way that Rav Moshe learned the Gemara is, you have to do your utmost. You know, Yoitza isn't good enough over here in Tzitzis for some reason. You have to do your utmost. And your utmost is to go get yourself a pair of Tzitzis. So he says, even for Ashkenazi, you have to do your utmost. And therefore, Ashkenazi has to wear wool Tzitzis, according to Rav Moshe. He acknowledges, listen, if it's the summer, and it's very, very hot outside, and it's very hard for you, okay, you could wear cotton. But, Zot Rav Moshe, wintertime, everybody should be wearing wool. And that is the Shita of Rav Moshe, which is kind of surprising. I wouldn't have gotten there from the Sugya. I would have learned the Gemara just only if you're totally mevatel the mitzvah. But I hear how you could learn the Gemara like Rav Moshe. And the Meister Shlomo Zalman says one should be machmer to wear wool. Now the Sugya is going to take a surprising turn. Correct, but we're going to stop off in Lita. We're not going straight to Bnei Brak. We're going to stop off in Lita. We're going to stop off in Vilna. The Gra apparently wore cotton tzitzis. Gra, didn't you learn the Rav Moshe? I guess there's a chronological issue there for the Gra to learn Rav Moshe. But what's going on? The Mechaber says you're better off wearing wool. Right? The Gra knew it's a Machlokes Amoraim. The Gra knew it's a Machlokes Rishonim. What's going on? How the Gra who's super machmir with his talis and tefillin all day and machmir in every little ice of everything. He's going wearing cotton. Oh, well, he wasn't so down to wear wool. It was too hot for him. Doesn't sound right? So what's so he's wearing his wool towel. So that is one of the answers. So one of the answers is that I was going to do this first, but we'll skip there. One of the answers that is given is the reason that he wanted to wear the cotton is because he was Mekayim, the mitzvah deraisa. He wore his wool talis all day. So he was Mekayim, the mitzvah deraisa, by wearing the wool talis all day. And he wanted to be Mekayim the derabanan, so he wore the cotton tzitzis. So he could be Mekayim both the deraisa and the derabanan. Now, I think that pshat is very shver for two reasons. Number one is, what's better? Are you better off be Mekayim two mitzvahs deraisas, or one mitzvah deraisa and one mitzvah derabanan? L'chayr, simple math will tell you, you're better off with two mitzvahs deraisas. Why am I better off with a mitzvah deraisa and a mitzvah derabanan? Simple, I'm not saying you can't come up with some vertel, but the simple pashut pshat is you're better off with two mitzvahs deraisa. Secondly, the Gra was Ashkenazi. L'chayr, we don't see any indication that he didn't go with the Ramah, that it's mitzvah deraisa. So the katan was also mitzvah deraisa. So why was he wearing the katan? So one reason is the reason that Rav Chaim the Chazon Ish, explains as to why the Gra wore cotton was he wanted to show that we paskin that cotton you're yotzei midaraisa. Now that's also kind of funny because that's not the normal mahalach. The normal mahalach is that big gedolim rabbanim generally are machmir on things. They don't go out of their way to be not machmir to show that this is the halacha, usually.
Before the Mishnah Berurah, what did the person say? This thing that Yerushalayim should be machmir. It wasn't around for...
Very good. So Gilan is saying there was still a concept l'cha'ira of there was the Shitas Mechaber, which is based on the Rambam and the Rif. The Mechaber, the Rambam, the Rif, and Rav Nachman all existed before the Mishnah Berurah. So the Chayra, even if it's not based on following the Mishnah Berurah, the Chayra, somebody like the Gra, you would expect if he has the option of being Yotza, all Shitas Rishonim. He's going to go with all Shitas.
Sorry.
Then I missed you. Then
I'm just saying that why would the Gra want to be machmir for the Mechaber over the Ramah?
It's not over the Ramah. It's both or one. The Ramah masking you yotzei midaraisa with the wall.
The Mishnah Berurah is the one that comes along and says that a bal nefesh should be machmir. what shachas to the gra? I'm saying.
At the end of the day, the gra type of person, I agree with you, a stam yid. The stam yid in Vilna, maybe. The gra was the type of guy he was like Rav Yashua style, that he's going for this. Shitas Rishon there, Shitas Rishon there. That was the whole mahalach of the gra. I think so. So, Lemaisa, I think the Vart is like this. That when it comes to, if the Gra and all the Talmidei Chacham and everybody just wore wool, right? So we would think it's all or nothing. It's wool or nothing. And, especially before they got the thin wool, it was like a blanket what they would wear. Imagine wearing your talis gadol on your skin. It's not cool, right? So when it's a hot day in Vilna, I think August, it still gets hot, a hot day in Vilna. So people are going to say, I'm not down for this whole tzitzis thing. They're going to wear nothing. So therefore, since it's going to result in people wearing nothing, if you made it wool or nothing, there's going to end up with nothing. Therefore, the Gra said, let's go with cotton. Yeah, meaning, no, but he held it Teresa. The Gra held it Teresa. But it wasn't kedai to be machmir for the Rishonim that hold it's not Teresa, because that's going to be a chumash asa de kula. Because by you being machmir, they're going to people. The Chazon explained that he wanted to show this is the halacha. I am being masber what I think what the Chazon means by that. Yeah, fine. Weiter. So, fine. Another pshat that I heard as to why they wore cotton. This works a little bit better in Bnei Brak, as I didn't really say this first, but the Stapler, the Chazon Ish, Amram Chaim Kanevsky all wear cotton. They all follow the Gra. So this is a vart that works very well in Bnei Brak. Might work in the summers of Vilna, but not definitely not as all year around as you get in Bnei Brak. Like this: wearing a wool talis is not a levisha because it's not a beged. What do you mean it's not a beged? What is a beged? A beged is a fabric that performs one of three functions. It either makes you look good, right? A Ferragamo belt is a beged. It looks good, right? Even if you don't need the belt, yeah? So it looks good. So this, if you're wearing it under your shirt, you don't see it. So, okay. It's there to cover something's a beged if it covers your exposed body parts. Well, it's on top of your undershirt, underneath your shirt, not covering anything. It keeps you warm. Oh, it keeps you warm in Bnei Brak in the summer, the whole tzitzis. But that's keeping you warm, that's not hanadik. That's the opposite of hanadik. So therefore, if it has no qualities of beged, it doesn't have a din beged. And therefore, if this wool tzitzis that keeps you hot in the summer doesn't have a din beged, therefore they didn't want to wear it. There's two kashas on that. Kasha number one is, using that same line of reasoning, you would come out that the cotton is also not a beged. Because once again, it's not covering you, and it's not covering exposedness, it's not looking good, and it's true you would rather wear cotton than wear wool, but who wants to wear cotton? Nobody wants to wear cotton anyways. You don't want to wear anything because every additional layer is not cool. Who wants extra layers to wear? So, secondly, I could argue that it is something that you're wearing for looks. Surely the strings, there's an element of a fashion statement, or at least something going on when you're wearing your tzitzis out. People want nice looking strings coming out of their pants or coming out of their garment. Now, if you're going to say that the tzitzis is one garment, the beged and the strings, I know there is possibility of being mechalik, but if you're going to say it's one garment, so there is a fashion element, there is something, and therefore maybe it is a beged because it has the strings that are showing if you wear the strings out. So there are two kashas on that shot. But okay, these are knockout kashas, but they are kashas. Okay, fine. Another reason. Oh, I did that one already, yeah. Okay, now the Bach holds that the strings need to be the same material as the garment. I think it's originally from the Maram Rottenberg. So the Bach holds that the strings need to be the same material. For whatever reason, without getting involved now, we only use wool strings. So therefore, the Bach, it's only going to work with the wool beged. because you need wool, you need to be the same. Cotton, it's going to be different. For the Maisa, it's very clear in the Mishnah Berurah. He brings the Achronim aren't choshish for this sheet of the Bach, and the Minig isn't like this Bach, and therefore we don't really treat this Bach as very important lahalacha. Okay, so the Maisa, how do we conclude here? We conclude that cotton is allowed, but the one who's machmer to wear wool, l'chayr tavilav bracha, unless you're b'nei braker, chazanishnik, or whatever, that for you follow your Rebbe and wear cotton. Because it's the Maisa, it's to say that cotton's an advantage is a chiddush, but to say that cotton's yaitza is not a chiddush. Fine. Now, there's Gemara in Menachos Memem Beis that says leather is not chayiv in tzitzis. So you have your beautiful leather jacket and you slit the sides so you could be like a schmackster and put tzitzis on. No, sorry, Charlie, it doesn't work. Leather is not chayiv in tzitzis. Leather is not a beged. That's very strange. Why is leather not a beged? A leather jacket is a very nice beged. Why is it not a beged? Sarkin. Let's see. So, why is it that wool and cotton are considered a beged, but wool and cotton are considered a beged, but when it comes to leather, it's not a beged? So the levush has yisoid. The levush's yisoid is that anything that is what's the word, weaved, anything that is weaved or sewed or whatever, woven, that is considered a beged. Leather is just one big piece, and something that has one big piece doesn't have a din of a beged. What about synthetic materials? What are synthetic materials? Polyester, nylon, acrylic, rayon, spandex, microfiber. All these materials. Could you have a polyester tzitzis? Is polyester b'chal chayiv in tzitzis? So based on the levush's guidelines, that's based whether it's woven. Apparently, when it comes to these fabrics, there's different ways of producing them, producing garments that are based out of these fabrics. It could either be you take these fabrics and you make them into thread and you weave them just like you weave any other garment, or it could just produce like a sheet of this stuff, and that could also be used as a garment. So there's different ways of making garments from this stuff. So Zak the Har Tzvi and Shlomo Zalman, it depends. If you wove a garment with synthetics, then it's chayiv in tzitzis. If you just made a sheet of these synthetic materials, then it's not chayiv in tzitzis. So that is how the Har Tzvi and Reb Shlomo Zalman go. Zak Reb Moshe, the great machmer of Reb Moshe, Reb Moshe says that no, that's not, you can't wear tzitzis with synthetic. It's true you might go and weave the synthetic, but since synthetic material doesn't by definition need to be woven, Mimela it's not chayiv in tzitzis. So Dr. Moshe, don't rely on the heterim of these the Har Tzvi and the Shlomo Zalman. You cannot wear synthetic materials. Zak the Oz Nidbru.
Is that the meshy ones?
The meshy ones are
Synthetic.
synthetic, correct. I'm going to get onto them in another minute. There's another issue as well. There's two issues with those. Zok the Oznid Baru, Rav Zilber. So he says that, no, does the Mishnah Berurah, could you find me anywhere in the Mishnah Berurah where it says it needs to be woven? I don't see it. So I don't know where the Levush says it. Shkayach the Levush says it. We don't pass it like the Levush. And therefore, synthetic materials are chayiv in tzitzis. And that's the shita of the Oznid Baru. Now, what's with these mesh tzitzis? So these mesh tzitzis are synthetic. They're mostly polyester, I believe, or rayon or something like that. I don't know the difference between these different things, but they're synthetic. I asked ChatGPT, and ChatGPT told me they're all synthetic. So these synthetic tzitzis mesh. So according to Ramosha, you make a bracha on them. It's a bracha levatala. And there's another issue with these synthetics, that since they have these big holes, there are some poskim that say, based on a Mishnah on Kalim, I'm not really sure of the exact details, that it doesn't have a din beged. Since it's just all these holes, it doesn't have a din beged. Now, I can't prove it from the Mishnayos and Kalim because My Anivus doesn't let me say that I'm a Bucky in all the Mishnayos and Caleb. So, whatever. But and just a svara, I would say, I think it's a beged. Why not? Who cares if it's mesh? Why should there not be a beged? But once again, I'm not working with actual proofs, so I don't know. Zet Rebelsky, he says something amazing. He says, make sure not to wear those mesh tzitzis on Shabbos in Flatbush, because you're carrying in Rosh Hashanah, because it's b'chol not tzitzis. So you're just carrying. So I thought that was pretty intense. Lemaisa, so it's going to be a big machlokes paisim. Are they woven? So I asked ChatGPT, I'm not really sure if these guys are woven. He said they're knitted but not woven. Somebody needs to figure out this mitzias on me. I don't know what they fit out, what that means. If that fits in or doesn't fit in, I'm not really sure. That's just, I asked ChatGPT, that's what he answered. I don't know the mitzias further. Okay. So the Maisa, you should stay away from the mesh tzitzis. Not cool. What about the undershirt tzitzis? So, in Hilchos Avelos, we say a beged zeya, which is the beged closest to your body that's supposed to collect the sweat, i.e. undershirt, doesn't have a din beged. So some want to say that so too over here by tzitzis it doesn't have a din beged. L'chayr, it's a difficult argument. That was a din in Hilchos Avelos. What's a chashuva garment? What's laundering, etc. Tzitzis, it doesn't say anywhere that you can't have a beged zeya, a big day zeya. It doesn't say it. So I think you're making it up by putting it here. Furthermore, when the Mishnah Berurah discusses the concept of us wearing our tzitzis, our beged, our talis katan, our tzitzis, under our shirts, it doesn't say, and it should be on top of an undershirt. If the Mishnah Berurah held it needed to be on top of an undershirt, I would have expected the Mishnah Berurah to point that out. And he doesn't point it out. So therefore, I think it's a far-fetched claim to say that you can't have the tzitzis undershirt. That's how I would come out. Now, fine. Now, some people want to say it's a bizayin because you're going to sweat up the tzitzis. The undershirt tzitzis, you're sweating it up, and it's a bizayin. Now, I also don't hold to that. I don't think that makes sense because it's a beged. What do you do with a beged? You wear a beged. You get it dirty. You sweat in it. You wash it. And you wear it again. That's how begeds work. Let's not forget. Originally, tzitzis was the clothes that they were actually wearing. That's what their tzitzis was. The clothes that they wore for the day. That was their tzitzis. So what? It didn't get dirty? They didn't sweat? Maybe if you want to tell me you shouldn't go out to play basketball and dafka go and sweat it up. Okay, that I could start hearing. But to say it's a problem because when you wear it, you're going to sweat it up. So you sweat it up. It's clothes. That's what happens to clothes. Clothes get sweated up. And therefore, I think it's a shvacha taina personally.
The shirt that you're wearing on your skin nowadays is generally a shirt that's there to soak up the schwitz and to make sure that you're not...
Einochinami, but
so the dafka use the negative, the tzitzis as the shirt that I'm wearing on the bottom that's going to keep my nice shirt clean and make me look presentable.
See, and that's the kavana. Back in the day, they just wore one layer. Maybe. I guess it depends where they were located. Because I don't think in the winter in Lita they were wearing one layer. So tzarichin, exactly.
They weren't schwitzing.
Huh?
They weren't schwitzing.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Tzarichin. I hear. The Maisa to give some names. So Rebelsky and Netta Gavriel say that you shouldn't wear the undershirt tzitzis. You shouldn't wear it on your skin.
I have the shirt or the mesh?
No, the undershirt. The undershirt.
You should wear it. Well,
Yeah. But that's not how I came out. The Maisa of Shlomo Zalman says it's not a problem. Or Shlomo Zalman says it's not a problem. Sternbach says it's a hiddur not to wear the undershirt tzitzis. Okay, now let's talk about next part of the sugya, the ins and outs of tzitzis. So, the Shulchan Aruch, Orach Chaim Ches Yud Aleph says, the ikar mitzvah of the talis katan is to wear it above the clothes. That's what the Shulchan Aruch says. You wear talis katan on top of your shirt, above your clothes. In order, why? Very simple. You're meant to see the mitzvahs, and you wear it on top of your shirt. You'll see. You wear it under your shirt, you're not going to see it. So wear it on top of your clothes. And there's no Ramah that argues on this. So chevra, tzitzis on top of shirts. That's what it seems like. Shulchan Aruch Rav, also tzitzis on top of shirt. That's where it's supposed to be. Now, as I said, the reason of Urisim, I say, the Piskei Tshuva brings two additional reasons. One is so your shirt won't get, so your tzitzis won't get sweaty. Put it on top of your shirt. Third reason is that your shirt, if you wear it under your shirt, your tzitzis gets folded up. Now, if we want the talis to be a certain shear, it's a shayla if it counts as being that shear if it's folded up. Whereas if it's on top of your shirt, it's going to lay flat out, and it's not going to be folded up, and it's for sure going to count as the shear. So those are the reasons that the Piskei Tshuva brings to wear your tzitzis over your shirt. Now, for the student, Yeah, so, correct. There's, by the way, some people that are mafakik about wearing the talis gadol, tucking it into your gartel. Some people don't like it, because you're shortening you're like cutting it in half. Whatever. When you start wearing a gartel, we'll talk. Fine. So why do people? But here's the issue. Historically, the Hasidim wore their tzitzis above their shirt, and historically, the Ashkenazim, the Litvish. Sorry, I shouldn't say Ashkenazim. The Litvish did not, and the Sephardim, they wore it under their shirt. So what's going on? Why were the Litvish and the Sephardim all wearing it under the shirt when nobody's arguing? Because we have the Mechaber, we have the Ramah didn't argue, and the Shulchan Aruch. They're all saying wear it over the shirt. So what's going on? Why was everybody wearing it under the shirt? Zak the Shla. It's because we lived amongst the Goyim. We didn't, you could wear leather shoes on Tisha B'Av to go amongst the Goyim. For sure, you don't have to wear your tzitzis above your shirt and look like a weirdo with your tzitzis above the shirt. You can look normal. Don't let the Goyim make fun of you. That's what the Shla says. So in general, there was a different hashkafa amongst the Hasidim, as you see, for example, in the whole Sugya B'Chukas Seim Le'Salechu, they had a total different hashkafa about they held B'Shita not to fit in any way, whereas the Litvish world did not take on that same hashkafa. Fine. Now, they took it on to an extent, but not nearly the extent that the Hasidim did. Fine. Now, why not? And then the Mishnah Berurah brings a different reason than the Shah. The Mishnah Berurah says you could see from the Mechtavim of the Arizal that Al Pi Kabbalah you should wear your tzitzis under your clothes, not on top of your clothes. Okay? And it's interesting, we're going to take, I don't know the Kabbalah, and it's interesting, he doesn't quote the Arizal, he says the letters of the Arizal, the Mechtavim I don't know why he doesn't say the Arizal, and he quotes the letters of the Arizal. I just thought that was interesting. So, by the way, the interesting point, as I think Shapsi just said, the Hasidim are also makbid for this. You ever think it's like interesting fashion statement, the Hasidim, that they wear their shirt, they wear the talis katan on top of their shirt, and then a lot of them wear like a vest on top of the talis katan, or for sure a bekasha on top of their talis katan. They don't wear the talis katan on top of their bekasha. What's going on? So the reason for that fashion statement is not to go completely against the Arizal, and you should have something on top of your tzitzis, because they also don't totally reject this reasons Al Pi Kabbalah of the Arizal to wear something on top of your tzitzis. Okay, fine. Now, and the Sfarim, by the way, for sure go with the Arizal. So what about the strings? Should the strings be in or should the strings be out? By the way, before I do it, so it ends up like it seems like the Ikar Din was out, but for other reasons we brought it in. Now, what about the strings? So, did that Arizal mean that the strings need to be tucked in as well? So, Zak the Yaskil Avdi, one of the great Sephardi poskim, and he says, yes, the Arizal held that everything needs to be in. Even the strings need to be tucked in, Al Pi Kabbalah. The Oznid Baru and the Tzitz Eliezer, they say they agree that the Lefi the Arizal, the string should be tucked in. The string should not be tucked out. Fine. Now, Rabbi Vadia says the clear minog for the Doiris of the Sephardim was to tuck their tzitzis in, because they held the Lefi the Arizal, your tzitzis should be tucked in. The Or L'Tzion says the same, that the minog of the Sephardim is to tuck your tzitzis in. The Or L'Tzion says a Sephardi that goes and takes his tzitzis out, it's like he's being moitzi laws on the previous generations of Sephardim that tucked their tzitzis in. They both, however, do say, both Rabbi Vadia and the Or L'Tzion, Rabbi Tzina B'Shol, they both say that if a Sephardi is in an Ashkenazi yeshiva, then he then if he feels more comfortable tucking his tzitzis out, he could. That's not being mitzvah as in the previous generations. That's just fitting in amongst your Ashkenazi friends in yeshiva, if they get in. And interesting, you never see the Ashkenazi poskim talking about the Ashkenazi and the Sephardi yeshiva. I'm just pointing it out. Fun.
And after he gets married, he has to put it back in.
Married? It depends which kollel he's in. Fine. Very good. Now, fine. So that seems like that is how they go. Now, apparently, as there's a sefer Banim Chavivim, that brings the history, and apparently, as it's coming from a couple different sources, apparently, any time before, 80 years ago, 100 years ago in history, Litvish people wore their tzitzis in. They didn't wear their tzitzis out. That's how it was. Everybody wore their tzitzis in. Chassidim wore tzitzis above shirt, strings out, beged out, strings out, and with the long coat covering. So chatzi out, however you want to interpret that. And the Litvish world and the Sephardi world both had beged in, strings in. Apparently that's how it went down historically. When did this concept of, we'll call it B'nai Torah, wearing their tzitzis out, when did that start? So that started by the trailblazing of the Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah quotes the Magen Avram in a very strong fashion. He says, those that are tucking their tzitzis in, not only they're turning them away from the mitzvah Uri Isim, I say, they're neglecting Uri Isim, I say, and not only that, but it's a bizayin that they're taking their mitzvahs, their tzitzis, and they're tucking them in. That's a bizayin. And then he goes on 2 lines later, and he says, if the king would give you like an honor, the king would give you a badge of honor, will you hide it, or you would wear it out? You would wear it out. Kal v'chomer, when the Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving you this badge of honor, of course you should wear it out. And that changed the tide and caused people to start wearing their tzitzis out.
But the reason says in.
So is the Mishnah Berurah arguing on? So it seems to be that the Mishnah Berurah, quoting the Magen Avram, holds that pshat in the Arizal is the beged should be in, but the string should be out. It seems to be that's how the Magen Avram is going. There is a possibility that he's arguing on the result and saying we don't hold on the result, but the pashtus is that he holds on the result, but he says the result is going on the beged, not on the strings.
What did the other two of Arisa
So I know Rav Avadia addresses it. I don't know what everybody did. Rav Avadia addresses it, and he says, yeah, sure, it's good to look at it. Every once in a while, you stick your hand in, you pull out your tzitzis, and you look at it, and you put it back. That's what Rav Avadia says. Rav Avadia points out it was easier back in the day when they wore robes as opposed to pants, because it was much simpler to pull it out to look at in the robe days than the pants days. But he says that's what you should do. I don't know if everybody says like Rav Avadia, but that's what Rav Avadia says. Fine. So what is the bizayin exactly? The Mishnah Berurah quoting the Magen Avram says the bizayin to tuck your tzitzis in. What is the bizayin? So according to some, the Rivos Ephraim included, says the bizayin is that the strings that are tucked into your pants will touch your skin, and that's the bizayin. However, most understand, including Rav Chaim Kanievsky, the Oznid Baru, Banim Chavivim, the Sefer says the bizayin is that you're being embarrassed about your tzitzis strings. You shouldn't be embarrassed about your tzitzis strings. You should show it off. Being embarrassed about your tzitzis strings, that is a bizayin. Rav Shlomo Zalman says, once again, tzarchim, what the bizayin is of tucking in your tzitzis. He says it must be that the Mishnah Berurah was referring to in front of the maskilim. Like the maskilim were all into, looking modern day. And you were concerned that, tzitzis out, you're not going to look up to date. And tucking your tzitzis in to fit in with the maskilim, that must be what the bizayin was. Ramosha said, now, also to note, historically, Ramosha, most of his life, wore his beged under his shirt and his tzitzis in. Ramosha tucked in his tzitzis. In the later years, I'm not exactly sure at what age, but in the later years of Moshe's life, he took his beged out, he wore his beged and tzitzis above his shirt. So he went from a in guy to an out guy. Okay. So Moshe says, what's Pshat? Why is it Bezayin? What's Pshat in the Mishnah Berurah? He has the same question that Rishon Zalman, where's Bezayin? He said the Mishnah Berurah must be talking about a guy that wears the beged above the shirt and then tucks in the tzitzis. That's a Bezayin. Because that's like going out of your way to tuck in your tzitzis. But in English Moshe has like 6 different shuvas on this. But I'll check it up for you. I'll find it out. You can find it in the Yad Moshe. So he says it must be the Mishnah Berurah men wearing it outside and tucking it in. That must be the Bezayin. Now they asked her Moshe in the years that he wore it in, why did you wear it in? So he said in Slabatka they said to wear it in, so you should be neat. Now why were they very neat and put together in Slabatka? You saw Slabatka, nice suits, nice hats, clean shaven. What was that? That was the way that that was one of the mahalchim of fighting the Haskalah. Because the Haskalah wanted to say, you want to be a new Jew. You don't want to be like these schlumps, right? So you don't want to look like the Hasidim. You know, the Haskalah is very anti-Hasidim. You don't want to look like these Hasidim. You don't want to look like schlumps. You want to be put together. So the Var in Slabatka was like, no. We're B'nai Torah, and we're really put together. We have nice suits, we have shaven, nice hats. We're put together. So the Var was to be neat. And Rav Moshe held to this concept of you should be put together and you should be neat, and therefore that's why he preferred having his tzitzis in. And once again, he didn't hold that it was Bezayin, because he held the whole Bezayin was when your beged's on the outside and you tuck the tzitzis in. So why then did Rav Moshe switch in his later years to have the talis out and the tzitzis out? What happened to his whole Slabatka Vart? So Lafia Niyas Daiti, I think the Vart is that in his earlier years when Rav Moshe was a rabbi, the onlooker looked at him as a big rabbi, so he still looked neat and put together, and he's representing whatever, he should be neat and put together, and that should be the look of the big rabbi. Once he got to his later age, he was the gadol. When you get to the gadol, when you're the gadol, then you can do what you want. Rav Steinberg could wear 100 pairs of tzitzis. You could wear tzitzis. You could wear tefillin all day. Once you're the gadol status, nobody's asking questions. Why is his talus above his? Because I think Rav Moshe Be'etzim held, like the Shulchan Aruch, and the Ramah doesn't argue. The best thing is tzitzis above your shirt, tzitzis out, strings out. Right. So in his earlier years, listen, you got to be neat. You got to represent the Torah properly. Later years, when you get that status, you're the gadol, you're the man. Nobody has kashas on you anymore, and maybe you could pull it all off. That was a hypothesis of mine. Take it or leave it.
Why do the sons still put it in?
I don't know what the sons do.
No, they did it in.
Okay, maybe because that's what he did most of his years. Let me just finish off. Lamaisa, the minhag of B'nai Torah for the most part is to wear the tzitzis out. L'chayra, it's a beautiful thing to wear the tzitzis out because and you represent being a yid, and that's how it works. And once again, I know there is a tzad. So for as the Sfardim, as Ravadia says, the minhag of the Arizal, etc., not to wear the tzitzis out. Once we're going with the opinions that it's not going to be a problem outside the Arizal, the Mela, there's something good about being part. It shomer you as being a representative, a ben Torah, being part of this world. And I think once upon a time, originally 30 years ago, having your tzitzis out meant you're very yeshivish. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it's true that you're very yeshivish. I think you're just a fun guy if you wear your tzitzis out. So some people, it's not as intimidating as it once was, I think. But the Maisa, it's a nice thing to wear your tzitzis out.
But it's not Silazar Rishonim.
No, so maybe it's a good shayla. Once again, if you hold the reason that they didn't wear their tzitzis out was the shlah's reason, that as the shlah said, I would love to wear my tzitzis out, it's just the goyim, so then it's no longer a kasha. But with that, we end. Thank you for listening. Enjoy your tzitzis out. Enjoy your well tzitzis. You wear cotton, okay. You tuck it in, okay. But, l'maisa.